So as you guys know, we work on some amazing projects here at the shop. We fabricate huge signs for some of the biggest companies in the world. We design and wrap all kinds of boats, drift cars, race cars, and exotic cars. And we produce some of the coolest airbrushed art you'll ever see. But all of this great work is not possible without incredibly talented and dedicated employees. So now this business is a little bit different than a lot of other businesses. You know, there's no college courses, there's no online classes you can take to become a sign guy. You know, everybody in this industry has started at the bottom and worked their way up throughout the years. And, you know, everybody in this shop and this company has taken a different path on their careers to become sign guys. And whether we want to admit it or not, this business is in our blood.
How'd you get started in the business?
Well,
I don't remember that far back, didn't I?
I started in the sign industry. It was a good friend of mine, just helped me when I was in a tight spot and fell in love with the industry. It's a pretty cool industry.
I got my start in the business actually doing fiberglass. I went to work for a company that did prop fabrication, and they were a sign shop at the same time, so I got some weeding experience from there. Once I left there, I went to a sign shop.
I was a carpenter my entire life, contractor, new construction and remodels. When I moved back to Florida, I just started applying places and got picked up by a company that was a sign company. The ad was for a cabinet person. And I thought, cabinets, all right, carpentry, I can do cabinets. And then it wasn't cabinets, it was sign cabinets. So, and here we are.
I never went to college, never got a degree in graphic design or anything like that. I did get tremendous amount of experience. Worked for the Walt Disney World Corporation straight out of high school, got high-end jobs, learned how to not only design, but design for the production people, the guy that's got to do the silk screening, you know, whatever the production method was. I learned all the different production methods and learned how to design for those different production methods. It was a crash course, really, at a young age. Probably much more beneficial than any college could ever teach me.
I was actually a lifeguard trainer. And when 9/11 happened, a lot of hotels and resorts were down in capacity, so a bunch of people lost their jobs and had to go figure something out. Just so happened that a family friend of my parents ran his own little small sign shop and needed some help. So I was like, you know what, I'll do that. I can go check it out. So I worked with him for about 2 weeks until we got on a road trip, and he found out that I was a rock climber. And from that point on, I started doing all the rappelling and all of his sign work that was aerial.
I was electronic tech in the Navy and a troubleshooter on the flight deck. I got into the sign business from a neighbor who we had who needed some help, and him and his partner just started a sign company. I went and helped them and then realized there was a lot of facets to it. And the electrical part I knew from my schools in the Navy. And I took a little community college class for welding. And my license is actually from the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. It's an electrical specialty license, but on the test you have concrete forms, steel structures, and welding, and the electrical part of it, and mechanical fastening, because there's a lot more to putting signs up than just hooking up to the electrical.
I was in high school and I went to a DECA program my junior and senior years, and one of the companies on the list of companies they gave me that were participating in this program was a sign company. And since I grew up in my dad's body shop, I painted cars and I was into that, so I went to work for a sign company. The first year was just a one-man show, and the guy was like 86 years old, and he showed me how to actually hand paint signs with a brush, because there was no vinyl, no computers, no printers, anything back then. It was just a brush and an airbrush. And then over that summer, the dude died, and so the next year they placed me with Glover Signs, which had 15 or 18 guys working downtown Orlando. It was like a culture shock for me, but I realized at that point this could be a business. So I'd already gotten business cards printed up, and I was already doing stuff in my mom's garage on the side, learning how to paint and just hand painting these signs as I went along. And the business grew. When I was in my second or third year, I graduated. I didn't go to college because I had my business all started already. It was a couple years old and I was doing decent. I just kind of grew the business over the years. That's funny, because the first few years in my business, I think my ability wasn't being a sign guy, it was being a salesman, because I sold people that garbage that I was producing my first few years. It was horrendous. Well, as I grew, Rick was growing his business, and back in the beginning, you didn't have to have a permit, you didn't have to have a UL license, you didn't have to have, you know, there were no really standards on putting a 15,000 volt transformer with neon on this guy's building, and buildings started burning down from guys that didn't know what they were doing. So that's when it started with, you know, hey, you got to have a permit, you got to have a license to do this, and that's how Rick and I met up.
Yeah, we're talking 30 years ago.
Yeah.
My background is airbrush, and I had a booth at the flea market, and I airbrushed all kinds of stuff, t-shirts, license plate, helmets, you name it. Dale would come over to, you know, ask me to do certain things, and we became, you know, we started to get to know each other, and hey, what's up, Dale, and everything. So one day he asked me if I knew somebody that would do what I'm doing and would want to work at his shop.
We had an account that we had 11 motorcycles a week we had to paint, custom pieces, and it was all airbrush, custom crazy stuff. And I had 4 or 5 airbrush guys, and I went to Renee at his flea market and asked him, hey, do you know anybody that would come work here and do this? He's like, I'll shut this place down right now and come to work. I was like, for real? Renee? Because, you know, I'd known his work and he was a phenomenal artist.
But I only came with the airbrush experience. I did not have the experience of, you know, the paint experience, you know, the putting primer in, paint, clear coat. So if we were going to paint boats and motorcycles and helmets and that kind of stuff, I would have to learn how to do that kind of stuff. I didn't have any schooling. I didn't go to any airbrush school. I didn't go to any art school. I didn't go to how to paint a motorcycle school either. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's just kind of difficult, but you learn fast. Then the signs came in. So now we're doing boats, motorcycles, and signs. So Dale had me take the class for Matthews paint. Once I took that class, boom, like I just learned so much on gun adjustments and paint and spray patterns, and oh my gosh, it was just amazing. The knowledge that I acquired, and then from there, it just, you know, we went to the next level.
Why is this field different than most?
I'd say it's different than a lot of things just because so much goes into it. There's parts and pieces from, you know, 5, 6 different trades that all have to come together for these projects.
You have to learn everything as you go. There's no real schooling for it at all. You have to learn from guys who have experience. You learn from that aspect. You create your own way of doing things, and then you try and pass that knowledge on to somebody else.
What do you think are the most important skills to have if you're trying to, you know, get in this business and succeed in this business?
Well, you know, from my end, the department, the design department, digital skills are extremely important. You have to know your software, you have to know how to use it efficiently, and you also have to be able to read your customers. Every customer might have a little bit of a picture in their mind what they're expecting to see. You want to extrapolate that information from them and then exceed their expectations.
Oh wow. Wow, this is a totally different car. This thing is amazing. I can't believe this. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You did an amazing job with the artwork, man.
Thanks, man.
A great attitude and a good work ethic, honestly. Know somebody that works in the industry and talk to them and just get your foot in the door.
You've got to be well skilled with hand tools, because that's a real particular point. Everything that you do is going to be at your table with hand tools. Absolutely. And you definitely need to know how to use a tape measure.
Wait a minute. Did Steve, of all people, just say you have to know how to use a tape measure? Have we forgotten these classic moments? You're telling me we built a sign too damn big to fit out the door?
It is not going to fit.
Steve, how in the hell did we build a sign so massive that it's not going to fit out our damn door?
This cabinet is 120 inches long on this side, actually 120 wide.
Right.
And the doors are 120 on the booth, so we can't slide it through the door.
This is not going to fit in our booth.
Not straight through it.
I'm sorry, I digress. Let's get back to the video.
So if I had somebody who was looking to get a job in this industry, the biggest piece of advice I would be able to give them would be to stay humble and just try and take everything as it comes, because there's going to be a lot of information thrown at you very quickly. It's very much trial by fire, but if you're consistent and you can stay in that and you learn well, it won't be an issue.
You kind of just need to be flexible. We do our jobs, generally speaking, all the way through. So I'm gonna get blueprints, I'm gonna look at them, I'm gonna figure out my cut list, give the router guy, you know, the stuff that I need to come off the router, but I'm gonna cut everything, I'm gonna weld everything, I'm gonna skin everything, then it's gonna go to paint, and then when it comes out of paint, then I'm gonna wire it, all the LEDs, all the power supplies, any wiring that needs to be run, switches, all of that stuff. You know, you have to be able to do all of it. And then sometimes installer calls out and something was scheduled to go up. All right, looks like I'm installing.
You have to have a little bit of everything, you know, come in at the bottom, work your butt off, stay busy, be willing to learn, and find what you like. You know, it's important if you want to be paint, then paint. If you want to be a fabricator, fabricate. If you want to be an installer, then, I mean, there's so many things that we do here. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can be on the computer designing stuff all day, or you can be wrapping vehicles, you could be installing signs, you could be welding. I mean, there's so many things that we do. Everything that we do here is different, so it's pretty cool.
When they told me they wanted to make it into a World War II bomber, I thought there's no way they could do it.
And they did it. They took a truck and turned it into a bomber plane. Incredible.
I can't believe it's the same truck.
When I started here, I was a good designer, but I wasn't a good team player, I wasn't a good manager, and they saw potential in me, and actually I screwed up real bad once and they fired me. I was fired for about 10 months, and when they hired me back and they put me back to it, I had learned an important lesson about taking responsibility for my own actions and being accountable for my own work, and that really allowed me to blossom in this place. So yeah, some of us come here with experience in our field, but maybe not experience with life and what it takes to really succeed.
What's the most rewarding thing?
The most rewarding thing, well, we take on projects that nobody else does, and we make it happen. And when we do something that we've never done before, to see it come from the design aspect and then fabricate it and then paint it, you know, that's rewarding. That's like, come on, man, that was really cool. We all worked on that together and we made it happen. Like, that's very rewarding to me. And it's different. Like, it could be that ant, and then next time it's a motorcycle, and then next time it's a boat, or next time it's just a bunch of signs for a company. They, you know, wayfinding signs. I mean, there's just so many things that we do here. It's not boring at all.
Something that I've always thought of is when you're driving down a commercial zone, commercial district, what do you see the most of? It's signs, the whole strip, you know, so you just know that there's somebody that's got to make it, somebody that's got to put it there.
And I think one of the driving things about being a sign guy, or what people like about it once they're into the sign industry, is the creativity about it and the result, the physical reality of you just built that. Like, you know, it's a joke in the sign industry. Everybody's wives are sick and tired of hearing it, because you're driving down the street, I did that sign, I built that sign, oh look, I wrapped that car, I did, yeah. And everybody's wives are like, oh my God, will you stop talking about this? They don't even want to hear it no more, because they're just tired of it, because, you know, we're proud of that stuff. Yeah. You know, having something, you know, like that AC Marriott hotel sign. I mean, it's a 3,500 pound sign that we designed, built, and installed 50 feet in the air, you know, in the middle of the night on the side of that building. And so now all these guys that drive past it are like, oh my God, we did that sign. It was here in our hands, and now it's up here on this building.
Well, you're right. I know everybody in the industry knows that your family gets really sick and tired of hearing about every sign you did when you drive around.
There's probably not too few roads that you can drive through the town that you live in and point, I did that sign, I did that sign, I did those channel letters, I did that sign. It happens to all of us.
She just stopped me before she's like, I know what you're gonna say. I know, you tell me every time we drive by the sign that you built that sign.
Even some of the signs that I built 20 years ago are still the same sign that's up now. They've been retrofitted. They're no longer using neon. They're now using LEDs and things like that. But it's generally the same thing that I went up there on ropes or on a scaffold and put up. So it's really cool to be able to design some of that stuff and then know that it's going to be there for a long time. We've got a couple of projects that we're working on right now that are completely out of the box, completely different from anything that anybody's ever seen. So when those come out, it's going to be really cool, because every time somebody's like, oh man, that looks really awesome, you know that you had a hand in designing it, and that's pretty rewarding.
It's an industry where the aesthetic is the functionality. So you can't really bend to functionality and lose your aesthetic. It has to be what it has to be every time.
That's very deep.
Is that what you feel?
Sure.